Good morning and welcome to the new edition of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. Media has declared Pres- Mr. Biden, Vice President Biden, to be the president elect. And most of the leaders all over the world have sent their felicitations, starting with Prime Minister Trudeau, the first one to do. But the three world leaders who have refused to accept Joe Biden as the future president, the 46th president of USA, until and unless he is certified to be so legally. And that happens on the January the 3rd, 2021. Or earlier, in case there are court cases. Anyway, we will not go into the plus and the minuses of the election. But let's see what the impact shall be if Biden is to become the president, replacing Trump. What would be the impact globally? And more especially, what would be the impact on Canada? Because Canada is next door neighbor. And since one of the future supposedly leaders is of Indian origin, what shall be the impact on India? We have seen that the mainstream media has given Trump virtually no credit for his undeniable accomplishments, lower taxes, reduced regulation that generated record economic growth and pre-COVID employment for blacks and Hispanics, unprecedented resource development that caused America to become the world's largest petroleum and natural gas producer, cancellation of the toothless and one-sided Iranian deal, 400 billion in additional military expenditure by NATO allies for their own defense against Russia, which was being earlier entirely funded by USA, and then confronting the dragon, China, on multiple fronts. A historic and transformative Middle East peace breakthrough, and many more. So these attainments, these achievements of Trump have been ignored, glossed over because of the ulterior purposes. But now, if on January 20th, 2021, Biden is to take oath as the 46th president of United States of America, then what would be the impact be on the American economy and national security? What would its impact and the influence be on the allies of USA? And we can see that the impact would not be positive. It would not only impact negatively the economy, it will not only harm the American national security, given that Mr. Biden has said that his first thing would be to permit people from terror producing countries to enter and to give citizenship to 500,000 people right away. And it would undermine their lives, even though they may be relieved to have a counterpart. Definitely, who is more diplomatic, who is not blunt, who is not sharp, but who is attuned to the supposedly progressive narrative of international bureaucrats and the fellow travelers. who is a yes man. Whatever the bureaucrats put up to him, he'll nod and say yes. And it shall be a reversion to Obama's globalism. And that's the American leadership the people would definitely admire. But the admiration is more in the shape of a joy that the person cannot harm them but can be exploited for their purposes. Even the Saudis, Israelis, Indians, and likely the Japanese don't like that. So this is a curious cultural difference. That diplomatic, sheer, subservient attitude, even, you remember that Obama was born to king of Saudi Arabia. So that would not be appreciated by the Eastern countries. Leadership by virtue signaling wasn't always admired, and it's not going to strengthen the Western alliance in the Cold War, and especially the new Cold War that is on the horizon with China expansionism. It won't be appreciated. And then, not only that, there's a possibility that the curtailment of Iranian sponsorship of terrorism would no longer be there, and Iran would be free to sponsor terrorism with the result of producing nuclear weapons. And the resistance to Russian adventurism and militant Islamism would also vanish. President Biden would be less unpredictable. That's right. Trump was absolutely unpredictable, and that's where his capability lay. He had the courage and the conviction to break the ice with Kim in North Korea. It was his initiative and his insight which brokered deal between Israelis and the Middle East Muslim kingdoms. Thereby, three countries established relationship. It was his initiative that led to Jerusalem being the capital of Israel. So all that would be put on the back burner. The presidentship of Biden, as I said, would be less unpredictable, and many Canadians are welcoming it, disregarding the fact that it's going to be dangerous for Canada. Biden's presidency would be challenging to Canada's economic self interest. Not only challenging, it might be a curse for Canada. The first thing that he's likely to do within a few days of his coming into power is to cancel the pipeline that was sanctioned by President Trump after a long refusal by Obama to do so. And that is the mainstay of Alberta economy. The result would be that the Albertans would suffer badly. Broadly speaking, a Joe Biden presidency would mean expansionary fiscal policy, stupendous deficit. Now, don't be alarmed. What would you call the stimulus package of $4 trillion that has been assured by to Biden? $4 trillion package is going to increase inflation. Expansionary fiscal policy is evident. Then is stress on more welfare, making people more hypocritical and dependent on the state. And the promised tax increase, thereby leading to the flight of capital from the country. What Trump had done was to bring the factories back, the jobs back to USA, and now they would be going away again. The reverse trend would be there. Higher taxes would mean that the corporates would like to relocate their businesses in low tax rate countries, thereby reducing the job potential. For the first time, USA had zero unemployment. Tax would Biden would rejoin the Paris Accord, thereby morally binding the USA to policies that would weaken American competitiveness against its geopolitical rivals. They would be free to pollute, but America would be bound not to do so because it's an advanced country. And then, as I said earlier, Biden has promised to raise US corporate taxes to 28% and the top marginal personal income tax to 39.6%. Now imagine if somebody is to pay 40% as income tax. Would he be interested in earning the money? This would cripple the economic growth of the people. It will destroy capital investment, consumption, increase unemployment. But then that's what they possibly want, because when there's increased unemployment, people are more concerned with earning money to make both ends meet rather than to see what is right and what is wrong. They are more concerned with having 2 meals a day than to think whether their rights are being violated or not. But then, would he be able to make a major change? The Democratic majority in Senate is not there. So radical agenda, which the Gang of Four, led by AOC and Omar, had wanted may not be there. The Green Deal. As a matter of fact, the loony left initiatives of the Green Deal and socialist heaven promised by people like Bernie Sanders, with catastrophe written over them, would not be implemented because A, the majority of the Democrats in the House of Representatives has been reduced appreciably. Secondly, in Senate they don't have the majority, rather they have lost already 2 seats. So they cannot hope for the majority over there. And thus the legislative agenda. And then their pet phrase to increase the number of the Supreme Court judges would fall through because they will not be able to amend the Constitution, with the House and the Senate situation being what it is, and 75% states not being the Democrat hands. So, the disastrously expensive socialist program and the Green Deal may not be there. But the countries like Canada would suffer badly. Then India would suffer because quite possible that Biden administration will start giving funds to Pakistan, which Trump had stopped. And the close relationship between India and USA may not be there. Luckily, Quad would still continue to function, Biden or no Biden. And let's not forget, Kamala Harris was very vocal, and so was Biden, against Article 370 being abolished, against CAA, against NRC. And naturally, they would like to twist India's arm. It's something different. that India under Modi may not be amenable to let its arm be twisted. Then, globally, the war cloud will be there. First time in 71 years. 71 years. There was no. As a matter of fact, the last war time, there was no war was during the time of President Eisenhower. And after President Eisenhower, every American president has waged a war. Every American. Whether it was Kennedy, Nixon, Reagan, Ford, Clinton 1, Clinton 2, Obama 1, Obama 2, Bush 1, Bush 2, Bush 3. I mean, say two terms of Bush, three, and one of his father. So, this was the first president who did not wage a war, but put all his attention to reviving the economy. So that will go back. The Russians, the Iranians, and other oil exporting countries would be very happy because America would no longer be the leading petroleum supplier. As for the modern monetary policy, it is nonsense already. It's living on steroids. There's no limit on spending because the government can print all the money it wants and takes away the danger of hyperinflation. And this is going to increase limitless spending with no downside. Social welfare, help poor, catchphrases that are detrimental to the economy. We know there was one prime minister who did it earlier, and we know the results. That was Pierre Trudeau here in Canada. It was this disaster policy that brought Canada down. If Donald Trump is to continue, it would mean lower taxes, less regulations, restricted immigration, more resource development, and use of tariff to achieve foreign policy aims. And yes, opposition by that Black Lives Matter and Antifa, who say not my president. Mind you, be clear about the fact. Biden would not automatically cure the profound polarization of the American society. That's not going to happen. Just shift the feeling of disenfranchisement from Democrats to the Trump's base. This time, Trump got 3 million more votes than he got in 2016. So his base has strengthened. It has not been reduced. It is the chicanery, the fraud that has taken his seat away, at present as it looks. The wild card now is that he would do is the progress of coronavirus pandemic and the timing and the availability of vaccine. For Canada, the implications of the American election are going to be mixed. Biden's promise of cancelling the long-suffering Keystone XL pipeline and his green policies are going to damage the energy sector, and Saskatchewan and Alberta are going to be the victims. But then, when these two provinces suffer, the other provinces are also going to be damaged. Trump's tax and regulatory policies restrain the federal liberal government from its worst instinct. Now, what will happen is higher democratic taxes and tougher green regulation would provide Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland to do the same here. She'll say, look, America is doing it, so why should we not do it? And it would have negative implications for our competitiveness, for our productivity, and capital attraction. They say Canada was battered, smashed by Trump's protectionism. Don't forget, Democrats might outdo him. Of course, they would not have his bluster, his bragging, and threats. Can you believe the softwood lumber dispute has been suffering from Obama's time rather from Clinton's time? Did 8 years of Obama and 8 years of Clinton solve that problem? No. But again, don't forget that now the Americans have tasted the fruit of America First policy. And even if rhetoric of Biden is less threatening, the policies are not going to be appreciably different. Our ability to impose taxes and regulatory restrictions on social media might be used by a democratic administration because it's obliged to Facebook, it's obliged to Google and Twitter. They helped enormously Biden to be re-elected. Bottom line is it's naive, stupid to assume that Biden-Harris administration would be substantially friendlier to Canada or to India. It will be as unfriendly as anybody can be. Canada has a complex and critical relationship with USA. That requires protection of our interests rather than rushing in. Actually, Canadian leaders have the habit of rushing in. They forget the old proverb, fools rush in where angels fear to tread. They should have learned a lesson from Mexico, from China, from Russia to hold their tongue. Still, and then coming to the legality of that, just one thing came to my knowledge just now. Between 3:30 and 4:30 a.m., 1 hour, early in the morning, EST, in Wisconsin, 140,000 mails in ballot were for Biden only. Michigan, same time, 3:30 to 5 a.m., they found 200,000 votes mailed in ballot for Biden only. Same time in Pennsylvania, 2 a.m. to 4 a.m., they found a million mails in ballot for Biden only. And none of these ballots had any other candidate, just Biden, and none of them were thrown out. They were all accepted. 140,000 in Wisconsin, 200,000 in Michigan, a million in Pennsylvania. And all that happened early hours when the people are asleep. Why blah, that? So, if you want welcome Biden, I'll join you in welcoming Biden to the disaster, economic, political, social, to the war clouds looming again, to the recession which is going to be worse confounded. Let's wait and see the reality. I'm not very sanguine. Maybe you are. Thank you.